Alright, so this is video 6, or reading pages 377 to 384. This is looking at expressed emotion, how we express ourselves. People often express behavior and it can reveal their emotions. We tend to read their bodies, understand their tones and their voice, and study their facial expressions. So when we're trying to understand how somebody feels, a lot of the times we can just watch their behavior. Okay, we're going to talk about how do you detect certain emotions. Are there differences in gender in expressing your emotions? Is there different from culture and how we could read different body languages in different cultures? And then the impact of understanding different facial expressions. Okay, so detecting emotions. 85% of our behavior is nonverbal. So it's our stance, it's our hands, it's our faces, it's our tone of voice even. It's not so much of what they're saying, it's how they're behaving. Reading facial expressions, they say, is universal. Many of the facial expressions that we do of a smile is very similar from here to China. Understanding the different cultural expressions, however, is important. Sometimes, besides the facial expressions, what they exhibit in terms of their behavior can be different. The ability to read facial expressions is nearly ageless. Okay, babies understand that a smile is happiness, all the way from old age understands that a frown is sadness. Psychologists think that children as young as 5 years old have the same ability to recognize emotions on a person's face as an adult does, and I think it might even go lower than that. Introverts usually excel at understanding facial expressions. So we talked about introverts, people who are introverted, people who have a lot of self-reflection. They say that those people really kind of are able to understand facial expressions better than somebody who's doing all the talking, an introvert. Facial muscles reveal signs of emotions you may be trying to conceal. So even though you're trying to conceal something, your facial expression can express a lot. Eyebrows raised and pulled together can indicate fear. A natural smile are muscles under the eyes and cheeks. You can tell what that person is from a natural smile to a fake smile. The Duchenne smile, it's somebody whose French named it, usually is your authentic smile, and it only lasts for 4 seconds. Okay, after 4 seconds, then you start beginning to have a different or non-genuine smile. It lasts longer than 5 seconds. So think about when you take a photograph. Okay, usually right in the beginning, or if you're laughing about a story, that can last for about 4 or 5 seconds. After that, it's just kind of like, oh, all right, you're moving your lips in this manner. It's kind of fake. So if you had to look between the two different smiles here, between Paul Ekman's smile, which one's genuine? Okay, you have the first one, the one on the left side of the screen, and then you have the one on the right side of the screen. Many of you would probably guess the one on the right side of the screen is the genuine smile. The other one is just kind of what he's posing. Problems with detecting emotion. Most people find it difficult to detect deceiving emotions. So if somebody's lying, it's really hard to identify. Even trained professionals like police officers, psychiatrists, judges, polygraphics, detecting deceiving emotions, they can only detect it 54% of the time. Another issue with reading emotion is online discussions of communication. They think, like when you're sending an email, you interpret certain things as maybe that's an angry email or a happy email, or that can cause a lot of problems in communication, emails and text messaging. Gender, emotion, and nonverbal behavior. They say women are much better at discerning nonverbal emotions than men. So reading nonverbal emotions. When shown sad, happy, and scary films, women express more emotions than men. Okay. In 125 studies of sensitivity to nonverbal cues, thin slices of clips were shown to men and women. Women surpass men on reading these emotional cues. So 125 studies stated that women can read people better than men, and they were correct in understanding what they were reading. So if this was a sad face or a smile or confused. When asked men and women about graduation, men replied stated, "I feel bad." And then when women responded with longer drawn-out answers, "It'll be bittersweet. I will feel happy. At the same time, I will feel sad." Kind of just showing you the difference in how they express themselves. Men may be short and to the point. Women may elaborate on the issue. In studies of more than 23,000 people, women more than men reported themselves as being open to understanding their feelings and expressing themselves. Okay, so when again and again women are comfortable with talking about their emotions, men on the other hand, it might take a little bit harder for them to get it out. One emotion men surpass women in is anger. When angry, men have an easier time acting on this emotion. And here's kind of the bottom of the number of expressions. When somebody is sad, men usually don't necessarily express themselves. Women do. Happy. Okay, and the same thing with scary. Really small percentage of when men are scared, they'll express themselves versus like kind of comparing it to women. Here's kind of an interesting picture. In a gender biased face or gender neutral face, you can't really tell if it's man or female. When looking at this and people were asked individually, is this a male or a female? When the face was looking angry, okay, on the left side of the screen, most men would say it is a male. When looking at the one on the right, most people would indicate that this is a female. So a lot of the indication of how we express ourselves, men express themselves usually more seen as being angry or kind of content. Women are usually the people that have the smile on their face. So when you greet me every day, usually I'm looking at you with a smile and a happiness. And if you think about some of your other teachers, it's not that they're angry, but they exhibit more faces of kind of content or anger. Women also describe themselves as more empathetic. Empathy is something like you understand where they're coming from. You can identify with others and imagine what it might be like to walk in their shoes. When women were shown images of somebody crying, usually our mirror neurons want to reflect that and we start crying. When we see somebody stressed, we often find ourselves in that stress condition, what they're going through. Not to say that men don't do this, but women, on the other hand, are more prone to do it. If I see someone distressed in my classroom, I'm going to really try and figure out what's going on with that student. And if I kind of look at some of my guy friends, they might just say, don't let it bother you. That they'll be okay, kind of attitude on how they handle it. Culture and emotional expressions, nonverbal gestures are different in every culture. The meaning of gestures may vary. So here's some examples that were named in the text. Thumbs up in Brazil is often offensive and rude. Chinese stick out their tongues to show surprise. Eye contact can impact individuals. Native Americans don't look someone in the eye because it's often disrespectful. In the United States, if you don't look us in the eye, it is like kind of seen as disrespectful. Like you need to look us in the eye when you're talking to us. What about facial expressions? Are facial expressions universal? So this is all behavior, but what about in terms of how our facial expressions move? So when culturally diverse people were shown basic facial expressions, they did fairly well at recognizing them. Okay, so if you kind of take a look at these and trying to understand their different facial expressions, we'll go through in a minute. If you had to pause it and kind of take a guess on the first picture, I'll kind of give you a hint, is happiness. How would you rate the second picture? The woman in the middle. The third picture, the man at the end. Okay, the fourth picture, the man underneath. Okay, the fifth picture, the woman, and the sixth picture, the man. So maybe pause it and try and come up with how would you guess those facial expressions? Okay. Research was done to answer this question. Are all facial expressions the same? Two groups looked at the question. Do facial expressions have different meanings to different cultures? One was led by Paul Ekman. The other was led by Carol Izzard, and they tried to figure this out. What they found was people usually have the same, Paul Ekman said that people have the same 7 different ways that understanding facial expressions. Okay, so they're listed here as happiness, surprise, fear, sadness, anger, disgust, and then the last one that people argue that they could also understand is contempt. Thinking. Okay. Happiness is the first picture, so if you picked happiness for that woman, that was happiness. Surprise was the middle figure. Fear was the man at the end. Sadness was kind of the guy underneath. Anger, the one in the middle, and then disgust. Ugh, gross. The one at the end. Happiness and fear, they say, are the easiest to read, and then the other ones kind of follow. Okay, universal of emotions, Paul Ekman, Wallace Frenson, and Carol Izzard all studied it. They showed photographs around the world of people, and they were asked to guess the emotion. Despite different languages, cultures, and social norms, studies suggest that people speak and understand the same facial language. So if I were to smile over in China, it would be the same understanding. Essentially, people share a set of universal emotion expressions that support the point to the biological heritage of human species. We've inherited these emotions. So where do we learn facial expressions? Where do we get understand that a smile is a smile and a frown is sadness? Is it observational learning? I saw my mom do it, so now I'm going to do it. They've seen people in their life smile, so they smile. Well, research was done on blind people's emotions who have never seen a face. They found people still exhibit the common facial expressions associated with joy, sadness, fear, and anger. So people who were blind were asked, or show me that you're happy, and they would smile, and they had never been shown a smile before because they're blind. Or show me what happens when you're sad, and they would frown. So this is showing that we don't really learn emotions through observational learning. Okay, so if I saw you frown, I'm going to frown and know that's sad. Darwin was not surprised that facial expressions speak a universal language. He believed that our ancestors communicated non-verbally before verbally. So when I was going through tribe to tribe and I need to show that there's a bad tribe coming, we need to move, I would show a sense of fear to that tribe, and they would understand that fear is danger. Their ability to convey threats and greetings with facial expressions. And Darwin believes it's something that we instinctually inherit, and we understand these things. Expressions they help keep people alive. Expressing emotion, although the universal facial language share the basic emotions, how often we express our emotions can be different. So even though we have the same facial expressions, how often we exhibit them in our culture can be different. United States, Australia, and New Zealand, they allow for individuals to express our emotions more. Okay, we're very visible. We kind of wear our emotions on our sleeve here. In Chinese culture, which encourages people to adjust to others in society, personal emotions are less visible. Okay, they're kind of shown that can be something like if one person's happy, another person's not happy, that's offending to their area. So they're very, in terms of exhibiting behavior, they're less likely to exhibit it. Paul Ekman stated that there's 7 different emotions. I just kind of wanted to review this with you. He's a leading psychologist in emotions. He suggests that we see sadness, fear, anger, disgust, contempt was the one, happiness, and surprise. And we kind of talked about that before. Anger, okay, if you're confused on what anger might look like, the eyebrows are drawn down and together. They have a glare in their eyes and the narrowing of the lips. Happiness, okay, you have wrinkles around your eyes, you push up your cheeks, the movement of the mouth, okay, is kind of like a U shape. Surprise, you have your mouth open, your eyes wide, and your eyebrows are raised, kind of surprised. Disgust, okay, upper lip is raised, ew, your nose is wrinkled, gross. Contempt, and as I'm doing this, I feel my lip already kind of moving up. The corner of the lip is tightened, raised maybe on one face. Interesting. Fear. Okay, eyebrows are raised together, your eyes raised upper eyelids, tensed lower lip, and the lips slightly stretched in horizontal position. Like, oh my gosh. Sadness. Frown. Okay, losing focus in the eyes. Big indicator. The effects of facial expressions. Can facial expressions impact one's moods? What they say is facial feedback. The effects of facial expressions on experienced emotion is when a facial expression of anger or happiness intensifies the feelings of anger or happiness. They say that when you smile, your emotions are more positive. And when you frown, you all of a sudden instinctually become more negative. And they've done a lot of studies with this. And one way they studied it was the following image. It's known as facial feedback. How to make people smile without telling them to smile and frown without telling them to frown, which they attached the 2 golf tees to the eyebrows and asked the participants to make the tees touched. When they had the 2 tees touched, it was indicating of sadness. And people were stating that they felt like really confused or upset when they did this face for a long period of time. Okay, when they expanded them, it would activating a non-sad, and they were kind of like in the contempt state. Okay, nothing too exciting happening. We'll do one in class where I'll have you guys smile, and then you can indicate whether or not you feel these different feelings. So this is known as facial feedback. As on the last slide, it said your author said then to smile when you have your textbook in front of you. If you smile, it'll put you in a good mood. Okay. Behavior feedback is another one. Certain behaviors can impact our emotions. If you walk with an upbeat, positive stride, this can lead to a positive mood. Hey, swinging your arms, moving fast. Okay, it can indicate you're happy, you're excited. Okay, and then people who are asked to walk slow, head down, often reported sadness. Like, oh my gosh, this is scary. I don't want to do this activity anymore. Okay, so this is the second part of the video, video 7, experiencing different emotions. So we talked a lot about expressing them, how you feel about expressing them. This is more looking at how maybe you feel inside when you are expressing them. So Carol Izard said that we have 10 basic emotions that we experience. Okay, so we talked before about Paul Ekman's looking at the different facial expressions and understanding it, but Carol Izard said that we feel 10 different internally. Those are joy, interest, surprise, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, fear, shame, and guilt. So Izard is all about understanding how we experience them. Okay, Paul Ekman is looking at somebody and being able to tell what they're experiencing. Okay, we have 3 basic emotions this video is going to talk about specifically in the experience of it. However, many emotions you believe we experience, the big 3 that impact our behavior the most, they say is fear, anger, and happiness. Fear. Fear can torment us, prevent us from sleeping, eating, interacting with our social world. Fear is adaptive. Okay? Fear also creates us to remain in packs or tribes. We want to be together because we're fear of being alone. We've talked about that before. Fear can help us focus on a problem and rehearse coping strategies. It can be almost contagious. You're scared, I'm scared. Okay, in 1903, pretty interesting thing, somebody yelled fire as a fire broke out at the Chicago Iroquois Theater. The crowd panicked. Somebody said, calm down. More than 500 people died because they were trampling on one another. They were either trampled on or smothered on, and there were actually heels on people's faces. Bodies were piled 7 to 8 feet deep, purely because of fear of fire. Okay, they were scared something was going to happen. Fear can be seen as we learn fear. People can be afraid of anything. Okay, the fear of truth, the fear of death, the fear of politics, the fear of criminals. Right? Why do we fear so many things? One idea is we learn it. Okay, it can be seen by conditioning or social learning. So we talked before about classical conditioning. Okay, they conditioned little Albert to be afraid of rabbits because of the loud sound. Okay, it could be fear of operant conditioning because of punishment. You're afraid you're going to get in trouble or something's going to happen to you. And then observation is another one. We see something that people find scary. Now we think it's scary. You know, your mom goes, oh, spider. Now all of a sudden you go, oh, spider. Okay, you're learning that experience. Okay, biological perspective. Some fear psychologists believe are inherited from our ancestors. The part of the brain that works is the amygdala. The limbic system is the neural center deep in the brain. It's a key role in our emotions, such as fear. Okay, the rats whose amygdala is damaged show no fear to other animals, so they say that biologically our amygdala is kind of warning us to understand certain things that are dangerous. Okay, if that's damaged, the biological sense, then we don't necessarily have any fear. Okay, experience helps shape fear, but also to our genes. They looked at identical twins. One twin's level of fearfulness is similar to the when they're reared apart. Scientists have isolated that the influence how the amygdala responds to frightening situations. So there's actually a gene on how we respond to certain things, and if we have the same gene, we're not going to be maybe essentially scared of the same things, but in terms of how panicked we get or how hard our hearts beat when we're scared are going to be very similar to people of our same genes. Phobias we'll talk a little bit more when we get to abnormal unit, but phobias have intense fears of specific objects. They shake, or snakes, because they're fear of something or situations, and it becomes a phobia where if it disrupts your daily activity, like you can't continue to go to school because you're so scared that something's going to happen. Okay. All right, anger can be caused by a rude experience, a phone call, smell of something, you get angry, the temperature, traffic jam, pain, etc. Anger can be really harmful for us. Chronic hostilities, where you hold everything in, is linked to heart disease. Surveys done by teens, boys more than girls, reported walking away from situations or working it off with exercise. Girls tend to talk about the issue. Many studies state that that even the release of a small burst can be better than internalizing anger and holding that chronic hostility in. Encouraging people to vent their rage is typical of the individualized cultures like the United States. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about it. Group-centered cultures like China oppose venting. It is a threat to the harmony of the group. So kind of like showing your facial expressions, that's kind of something that's threatening to the group as well. Kind of an interesting thing here, kind of a more relaxed, cool culture. Domestic violence is rare in Micronesia. Families' life takes place in the open. Okay, relatives and neighbors who witness angry outbursts can step in before the emotional escalates to the child, spouse, or elder abuse. So that's kind of an interesting fact. Here in the United States, we kind of hold our anger in and don't necessarily show it to many cultures. Chronic hostility is constantly anger, is linked to heart disease, kind of what I talked about before. You hold everything in. The catharsis hypothesis is an emotional release. The catharsis hypothesis maintains that releasing aggressive energy through action or fantasy relieves our urges. So we may be angry, we hold it in, and then we burst it out. We feel good temporarily, and then we hold it in again, and then we burst it out. Okay, taking out anger, and it's solving the problem temporarily. It fails to cleanse one's rage. We often create more angry because we're constantly talking about it. Behavioral feedback, we act angry, it can make us feel angrier. So that's not really a positive way to solve problems either. And this is probably something that how I manage my anger. I hold it in, and then we burst it out. We feel good when we let it burst out, but then we hold it in again, and then we burst it out again. And it's not really solving problems. So managing your anger, one way is to wait. The physiological arousal is manageable. So wait till your body comes down, wait till the amygdala is off, okay? And then kind of process the information. Another way is to manage your anger is to control your expression, reflect, and think about why you're angry. And then the last one they say is to offer forgiveness. Observe that people, when they offer forgiveness, their blood pressure, their heart rate, and their facial tension all decrease. Happiness, yay! Last thing we're going to talk about is people who see the world as happy, feel more confident, make decisions more easily, and are more cooperative and tolerable. They live healthier and are more energized and manage sadness better. This helps explain why college students' happiness helps predict their life course. In one study, women who smiled happily, rather than smiling artificially or not at all, in the 1950s college yearbook photos were more likely to be married and happy in their middle ages. In another study who surveyed thousands of U.S. college students in the 1976 and restudied them at age 37, happily students had gone on to earn significantly more money than their less happy than average peers. There's the feel-good, do-good phenomenon. And this is if you feel good about yourself, then you are more prone to do good for others. Okay? You'll be more helpful more often if you are in a good mood. Okay? So if somebody holds the door for you, you're more prone to hold the door for them. Okay, if you are feeling good because you just aced the test, you're more prone to help somebody sitting by you. Okay, subjective well-being is most common measures of happiness, satisfaction, and the quality of life. You look at your physical as well as your economic indicators. So a lot of the times is you think that your well-being is good based upon your happiness, based upon your quality of life, based upon maybe your status in life as well. The time of day and moods, people are usually happiest in the middle of the day, they say. If one experiences a bad day, they usually rebound the next day with a better experience and are more positive and happy to approach the next day. Wealth and well-being. Studies indicate just because you have more money doesn't mean you're happier. And you can look at this chart here. Okay, the money is the blue line, keeps going up, and personal happiness remains about consistent. People who struggle to make money in life and say, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, often have a lower sense of well-being or a lower sense of happiness because they're constantly trying to be more successful, and that life can be more stressful. Experiencing emotion, there's two different phenomenons also that happen. Is the adaptation level phenomenon, is the tendency to form judgments relative to the neutral level. Okay, so here's an indication that it's often described by our prior experiences. So the adaptation level is, let's say you win the lottery and you say that that's going to make you really happy. It's only going to make you happy for a series of time. It's a short while. And then you're going to, and the novelty of having all this money is going to wear off. And this is going to become, we adapt to this new level of wealth or achievement. So you're going to then try and you want more money to be happier to reach that level. So there's going to be a cap on your happiness. Okay, you're excited about a new job, you get into the new job, and now you're going to adapt to this new style of your situation. And now you're maybe not going to be so excited anymore, you're going to want to reach a new level. Relative deprivation is when people perceive that one is worse off than those that I'm comparing myself to. So relative deprivation could be something like, you know, I look at my job here and I keep thinking like, oh my gosh, it could be so much better somewhere else. Okay? In reality, you keep comparing yourself as maybe not good enough to others. Okay? You look at Facebook and you're like, oh my gosh, all these people are going out and having all these cool experiences. Okay? And then you want to be at that level. Happiness is, researchers found that people who tend to be happy have high self-esteem, are optimistic, yay, I can do it, are outgoing, are agreeable, have close friendships, have work and leisure skill that engage in their skills, have meaningful, maybe religious experience, sleep well, exercise. Okay. However, happiness seems not much related to other things such as gender and age and education levels and parenting and physical attractiveness. Okay. Those are not so much indicators as the other ones are.